Hello, horror fans. Welcome back to Jay vs. Horror. I'm your host, Jay Wall, and today on Jay's Quick Reviews, we're going to be talking about the 2020 American horror film, The Dark and the Wicked. The movie was written and directed by Brian Bertino. It stars Marin Ireland, Michael Abbott Jr., and Xander Berkeley. The film focuses on a brother and sister called home when they are notified that their father is on his deathbed. Now, guys, as the film moves on, we see that their mother is not very happy that they've arrived home. She apparently told them that they did not have to come and did not want them to be there for this event. We also see that she's acting very strange, and there's a scene early on that really sets the tone for the entire film where she basically loses her mind. I hate to tell you stuff, I hate to give you plot points, but that's basically what happens here. The mother loses her mind and commits suicide. We're unsure why any of this is happening. Actually, throughout the entire film, we're pretty unsure why any of this is happening. But what happens is there's a general darkness in this home and on this farm, and the more it gets to people, the more drawn they are to hurting themselves and eventually committing suicide. There's a lot of delusional stuff where they're seeing things, it's hallucinatory, and it just plays off that vibe of The Shining and The Grudge and Session 9, all that stuff mixed together in a bucket and kind of thrown into a new atmosphere. Now, that's the basic plot of the film. There's other things going on, and I'm going to give two wrap ups on this review, two separate wrap ups on this review for this film. Now, first, I'm going to talk about it objectively, and I'm going to say that a lot of you guys are going to love this movie. If I was 12 years old, this was the first horror film I ever saw, it would probably scare me shitless. For a lot of you, it's going to check off all the things that you have to check off to be a good supernatural horror film. And then there are other people who are going to like it just for the atmosphere. It plays on that new age, dark atmosphere stuff from Hereditary and The Babadook and all that. So, that's one review of it. That's one wrap up where I'm telling you guys, I think 80% of you are going to like this film. And I think that most of that 80% is going to give it anywhere from 7 to 8 out of 10 and just, enjoy it a lot. So there. Now, my review of it, the way I feel about this film is it was painstakingly hard to watch most of the time. It's shot well. It has some great, genuinely creepy moments that are scary, but a lot of it is just stuff you've seen before. You've seen it done better, and it's done repetitively in this film. There are things that are over the top. The accents are bad, in my opinion. Knowing people who speak like this, I would say the accents are pretty bad. They're laid on a little too thick to the point where sometimes you can't even tell what people are saying, and that's ridiculous. It's a product of someone learning an accent and using it, and instead of it being a natural thing that occurs. And so that's just one little thing to nitpick. Other things would be that the story goes nowhere. It really doesn't have anywhere to go from the time it starts, other than it wants to do a bunch of jump scares and try to trick you into seeing things that aren't there, and that kind of stuff. It really doesn't have an ending, so it doesn't try to have too much of a story. That's the whole point of it. They don't want to tell you too much throughout the movie, and then the end is just very abrupt, and it's like, bam, it's over. Um, Other things, it sounds like I hated it, right? Uh, the performances are very forced. There's our lead character here, which is Louise, played by Marin Ireland, and the last 45 minutes of this hour and 37-minute movie, she's just like stuck in that mid cry thing where it's like there's like a half a tear every time you see her. There's like a half a tear rolling down her face, and her face is this, shockingly weird, twisted look, and she's like, not really a full on cry, but just like, and it goes on, and everything that happens is very predictable from the time you're given the initial setup. Even the little moments, it's always faked. It's always the ghost is right behind them. You know what I mean? It's just like so The Grudge and The Shining and Session 9 and all those type of films that we have loved in the past mixed together, like I said, and put in a new setting. There's nothing new here. A lot of this dialogue is even really lame. It's just really, there's a lot of people saying, they'll see things. They're all experiencing this phenomenon. but no one will talk about it what they're actually seeing with each other. That's the only way the movie can be prolonged. Because if anyone actually got together and compared notes, they'd be like, "We got to get the hell out of here." But they all keep saying, "Nothing. Don't worry about it." That's like one of the biggest lines in this movie, or something like that. They just constantly push the story in a weird way, and so yeah, objectively, if I'm talking about it for the way I think it's going to be received, I think a lot of people are going to like it. If you like jump scares, you'll definitely like it, even though they're not particularly great jump scares. There's a scene early on that occurs in a shower that, like, a lot of people I think are going to be like, "Oh my god, that's terrifying." But to me, it's just the scene from the elevator in the eye. It's just done differently, and a lot of the scenes in this movie are like that. It's scenes you have covered, we've all covered before, you know, and it just it doesn't do much for me. I can say that for me, subjectively, I'd have to give it, honestly, I'd give it like 5 out of 10. I think it tries too hard, too many places. Just for instance, there's one character in here of a priest played by Xander Berkeley, who you guys probably know from The Walking Dead and other stuff like that. He's a character actor who's done quite a bit of stuff. But he's playing kind of like Reverend Kane from the Poltergeist movies. And it's just not really working because he's overextending the accent and it's coming off weird. And, there's one moment where, I was watching this with Regina, my wife, and when we're watching it, I'm looking at his hat, the hat he's wearing, and I'm like, the problem with this movie is they spent 6 hours picking that hat and, not nearly enough time writing the script. So that's basically what I thought of it. Yeah, it works. It has atmosphere. Don't get me wrong, guys. It has a couple moments that genuinely work. They're creepy. You look at them and you're like, wow, that's interesting. But they're not strung together well. And, some people would complain it's a slow burn. It is a slow burn up until a certain point. But then it seems like it's almost too much. Like the scenes start happening too fast and there's no time for a breath in between the scenes to build up the tension for the next one. It just, oh, here's a hallucination. Here's a hallucination. Here's a hallucination. You know what I mean? And it gets to the point where everything that they see is a hallucination, but they're still falling for it. And yeah, it was kind of rough for me. I know a lot of people are gonna like it and they're gonna love it, and I don't, I've seen a lot worse this year. I can tell you that. Of the movies I've seen this year, probably at least a couple hundred movies so far. This was not terrible. Personally, I don't. It's somewhere around my top 50 probably, but I think for a lot of people it's going to be top 10. So there you go, guys, and that's all we've got for this episode of Jay's Quick Reviews, and we will talk to you next time. We've got something worth talking about. Bye.